Hi, everybody, and welcome to lesson 4 of Fire Edit's How to Write series. I cannot believe we're about to be halfway through. You guys are absolutely crushing this course, and this particular lesson is very exciting because today you're going to learn how to report and quote like a pro. So last week, as a recap, you learned about body copy and the 7 golden rules for writing well. This lesson number 4 is going to build upon that. And you have your outline now, which is very exciting. And now I'm going to walk you through how to get sources and evidence to back up all of those different 2 to 5 main points that support your angle. So in journalism, this is called reporting, which is the act of gathering, organizing, and presenting information on a given topic, event, issue, person, or place. So this process obviously requires a lot of finding of various facts, data points, and voices to form an unbiased and very well-rounded account that's accurate, that's number 1, fair, and up to date. Great reporting makes you an instantly trustworthy author, even in personal essays, which some people wrongly assume as long as you have your own voice in that essay, that's all you need. False. Doing your homework and making sure that you check all your facts and you have different points of view is what sets apart the good writers from the great writers. It's a way to build authority and credibility. It will make you a sought after writer that editors will want to work with. So today you're going to learn all of the skills to do that and how to report and quote like a pro. When it comes to reporting, there's 4 popular forms that you should know about. Of course, there are others, but these are, again, the most popular. So there's news reporting, which delivers timely and factual information about current or unfolding events clearly, accurately, and objectively. It requires time-sensitive data collection from experts, eyewitnesses, and other involved parties. If you're looking or watching the news, this is what kind of reporting you're going to see. And then investigative reporting discovers or exposes new revelations or significant issues by exploring a topic in depth. So it requires exhaustive research, exploring uncharted territory, strict documentation, and often interviewing anonymous sources or even whistleblowers. Now, feature reporting tells a layered story about a person, place, or thing with context, creativity, and emotion. It requires factually accurate details, background info, scene setting, dialogue, and even some character development. And finally, opinion reporting presents a subjective viewpoint backed by evidence and analysis. So it requires data, personal interpretation, and strong arguments from involved parties. There are some clues in there about the type of reporting you're doing and what sources you're going to need to complete the picture. So for instance, if you're writing an investigative report, you will need first-person accounts. You will need potential legal documents that really get into the nitty-gritty of exposing something for the very first time. That's very layered. That's very research heavy and in-depth. If you're writing an opinion piece about how great a recent movie or new song is, then you need sources about how it was made, by who, example scenes or lyrics, and quotes from experts and or many other people to back up your viewpoint that it was a great or terrible movie. And so now this gets into the types of sources. So you may remember this from school, but there are 3 different types of sources. There's a primary source, which is your golden standard. That's what you're always going to root for. It is firsthand information taken directly from an interview that you do, an original document, a scientific study, survey, photograph, video, transcript, or artifact. A secondary source is one step removed, and this contains someone else's analysis or interpretation, such as a news article, academic review, a documentary, a magazine article, biography, or blog post. And then finally, a tertiary source is the weakest source. It's a collection of information from multiple sources that offers a reference or summary, such as an encyclopedia, Wikipedia, dictionary, textbook, or a handbook. So if you want your reporting and writing to be strong as possible, you're shooting for those primary sources every single time. So that means tracking down original documents, scientific studies, interviewing credentialed experts or eyewitnesses. You can then cite these sources in your writing using the appropriate citation styles. APA is a very common one. There's also MLA in Chicago. Those depend on whichever publication you're submitting or writing for. Those will dictate which citation style to use. And I included here a really smart guide on citations from Brown University, so definitely check those out. But at the end of the day, when it comes to reporting, it takes a lot of time and energy, but it can result in a really groundbreaking original piece of writing coming from you, which again will help boost your authority and credibility as a writer and a voice. You're collecting the receipts that will back up all of your points, arguments, and angles within your story, and it's just proper due diligence. Okay, so it can't be skimmed over. But unfortunately, in my experience as an editor at several different publications, working with both staff writers and freelance writers, I've seen a lot of people try to cut corners when it comes to sourcing. So I've come up with a list of some generic sourcing do's and don'ts that you should follow as well. The first and foremost of a sourcing do is for each and every fact or data point you mentioned, you have to clearly introduce the source by name, title, date, description, and include a proper citation. You should interview at least 2 to 3 diverse and qualified primary sources on a topic in order to get a well-rounded and fair and unbiased account. And then the third sourcing do is if only you can find secondary or tertiary sources, find as many as possible in order to give more credibility because you don't have a primary source. Next, in terms of sourcing don'ts, do not reference facts that come from non-reputable sources that can't be verified. So if you find a random site that says something is true, but you can't find any data, it doesn't link to a study or any primary source that seems legit, then you can't repeat that fact. Do not lift direct quotes. This happens so often, especially in digital media writing. Do not lift direct quotes from interviews that you didn't do yourself. That is lazy journalism, lazy reporting. You want to give proper credit to the original reporter and paraphrase what was said during that discussion. And then finally, your last sourcing don't is do not include lengthy direct quotes. I also see this a lot from sources that you have interviewed where you're just like paragraph dumping the entire interview. In those cases, you do need to paraphrase, show, don't tell, use other ways and other primary sources to get those points across. Do not just regurgitate the entire interview because that is not helpful to the reader. So if you abide by these guidelines, you'll make any editor thrilled to work with you again and again. All right, so now let's move on to how to quote like a pro. So in the past on Fire Edits, I did a whole column about how to ask anyone anything and get the best responses. I highly suggest you click on that, you read through it because it will give you the interviewing skills you need to interview and grill any source, whether it's a primary source, whether it's a celebrity, an expert, an eyewitness, an anonymous source. It really gives you the secrets you need to make the most out of that time that you have with that person, get the sound bites you need for your story, and then really, dig deep on follow-up questions if they start to hit on something that hasn't been covered anywhere else. That's where groundbreaking interviews can really break the mold, and having these skills at your disposal will make you a really great interviewer. Once you've completed an interview with a source, you need to transcribe it. So you bet you're going to record it in 10 different ways if possible. You can use the Voice Memos app on your phone, on your desktop. You can buy a digital recorder. I always have at least 2 recorders running because I've been in situations where I've lost interviews and that is absolutely devastating. Then use a service like TurboScribe or Voice Memos even has built-in transcription now, which is great, so that you can convert the audio into text. That way you can read over everything that was said, pluck out the best direct quotes and facts, and then weave them into your piece. When it comes to inserting quotes into your pieces of writing, direct quotes, you should think of them as that magazine cover-worthy soundbite that's clear and makes a really strong point. Or if this person is like a prominent figure, if that quote provides an intriguing insight into who they are or how they think, that's direct quote worthy. The remaining 70% of your interview, believe it or not, should either be paraphrased or completely cut, left on the cutting room floor. No one's going to see it because you need to trust in yourself that you can take what was said and summarize it or illustrate it so much better than the way that the person audibly explained it. And that is trusting yourself as a writer. So go ahead and do that. Or if there's another primary source that could show what the person is saying more compellingly and direct and succinctly, insert that primary source instead. Okay, and then finally, it is your time to put all of this great reporting, interviewing together into your piece, weaving it into every single paragraph, to every single point that you want to make, so that you form this complete puzzle of all these different pieces within your writing. So here's a formula that works really well most of the time, but it can differ. So you want to start your paragraph or section by making your point, and then you want to present your reporting or sources as the evidence. You need to analyze and interpret all of the reporting, the sources, tie it back to the point, and then end with a very clear takeaway for the reader. Smooth transitions like throughout these elements can really connect and create a rhythm that will help strengthen your writing, which is great. And then if you constantly keep in mind that your angle needs to be specific, fresh, relevant, timely, useful, all of those things that we've covered in previous lessons, you'll be able to really pluck out the best evidence and reporting and interview quotes that you need to create a really groundbreaking piece of work. So with that, now it's your turn with writing prompt number 4. So I want you to put your reporting hat on because we're going to dig in to that outline that you created last week of your body copy and really tie each point with some reporting and sources. So you want to pull at least one primary source to back up each point that was in your body copy outline. So this means you're looking for an expert, an eyewitness, or anonymous source to interview, an official or legal document, a scientific study or survey, an original photograph or video, a raw transcript or audio file, and then a verified artifact, piece of evidence, etc. Pick and choose based on the point, based on your angle, based on your topic. And then for each of those primary sources, write a complete sentence that would introduce them within your body copy. So this expert at Harvard University, he's specialized in ABC, said, amazing direct quote. Next, draft 2 to 3 interview questions that you would ask a source to get the sound bites you need for your short form piece of writing. So the deadline for this is this Friday, June 20th at 12 p.m. your local time. You can ask me any questions as you go, respond to this email. I'll fire up the subscriber chat this Thursday and check in on you. You can share your status or drop any questions there. And then next week in lesson 5, we'll cover the importance of owning your point of view. Thanks, everybody, and I'll see you later.